Welcome. I am Larry Hoy, biker writer legend. Welcome to First Chapter, a podcast where I take the time to introduce you to some wonderful books that you may not have heard before. So, before further ado, let's get on to it. First Chapter. All right. Today's book is Murder Club. It's the first book in the Jurgen County series by my buddy Richard Powell. So, this is a bit of a risque cozy murder. So sit back, relax, grab a drink, and beware. We're going to go to Jurgen County and visit the murder club. Chapter 1. And Richard, I'm going to get you for this later. Chapter 1. Kathy felt a warm glow, but a little sore as she stepped from the shower. God, God knows she needed a good reaming. Troy had supplied it. But like most women her age, she should have used a little lubrication. He'd been in a rush, so they hadn't bothered. Chuckling, she wondered how he would explain the scratches on his back to his wife. Not my problem, she said to herself. The little bitch wouldn't dare confront me. She admired herself in the mirror. Got a nice bod for an old woman, said to herself. You can have almost any man or woman you want. It had been a good day. A new 5-year contract for a book a year with 100,000 advance each on top of the royalties. The possibility of a movie or a TV show, hanging out with her toadies, a sumptuous dinner here at the resort. She loved how they all kissed her ass, bowed and scraped before her at the little treat, paid for with the money they earned from the anthology, so she so graciously edited. Then, watching Troy get his cute little wife so drunk they had to carry her to their room before he rushed here to service her so proudly. She wondered if maybe she could use her charm to talk them into a threesome. God knows Troy's wife Carla was gorgeous, Kathy thought, slipping into her robe. And now for my own guilty pleasure, said aloud as she opened the mini fridge. The wine bottle rolled across the floor. She trapped it before it could go under the bed. Surprised by the bottle's tumble, she looked back at the fridge. The front of the shelf had dropped, turning it into a ramp for anything that got set in there. Kicking the door closed with her foot, she placed the bottle on the table. As the cork had been raised, it opened with a twist. Smiled when the cork popped as it left the bottle. Grabbing a plastic cup from the sink, she poured a generous. After sniffing the cup's bouquet, she downed a large swallow. Picking up the TV remote, turned it on. Arranging the room's chair so she could put her feet up and watch, filled the glass. In spite of the food she'd eaten before, alcohol numbed her face, lifting her mood. Finding nothing on the regular channels, she scrolled through the movie offering. The wine had an off taste, thought as she sipped. She loved the vintage with a passion. Expensive, but it was worth it. Not all available at most restaurants or hotels. Surprisingly, the resort stocked it. Itched all over. Forgetting her body wash, she'd used the soap supplied by the resort. Going to her hold all bag, found her lotion and under the allergy injectors. Pouring a generous amount on her hand, she rubbed it onto her skin. Itching persisted. Decided to rinse again. Shrugged off the robe to the floor and then returned to the shower. At first, the water seemed refreshing, but then it felt hot. Frustrated, she adjusted the temperature. Someone nearby must have flushed, robbing the line of cold water. Itching stopped, but now she felt too warm. Giving up on the shower, she dried herself and slipped on the robe. The wine bottle felt cool. She rubbed it against her forehead. Another sip of wine, just to soothe her parched throat. Stumbled, but caught herself. She might have to slow down on the wine, she thought, as she poured another glass. seemed more potent than usual. Sipped again and then spat it out. It wouldn't go down her throat. My God! Thought, unable to speak or breathe, stumbled as she rushed to her hold all bag. Weaving, she groped inside the bag. Finally, she gasped the allergy injector double pack. After flipping the yellow cap off with her thumb, pulled one injector from the carrier. Removing its blue cap, she clutched the injector in her hand and jammed it against her leg. It clicked. Then came a slight sting of the needle. Sighed with relief, but still the air remained trapped in her throat. Trying now to keep her fear in check, she counted to 10. Removing the needle from her thigh, she waited for the epinephrine to begin working. She hobbled to the chair, hoping that sit down would calm her. Help her, help her catch her breath. In the past, the medication would have worked quicker than now. Maybe she'd have to use the second injector. Approaching the bag, she realized the other injector lay on the bed near her bag. Fighting the dizziness, she staggered to the bed. She grasped the pen, falling onto the bed. She opened the second pen. It slipped from her grasp and dropped to the floor. Desperate, she reached for it, losing her balance, tumbled to the carpet beside her, hands trembling as she again removed the cap. Now she barely had the strength to move the carrier from its tube. Kathy grasped the blue cap, freeing it from the pen. She again drove the orange tip through it into her thigh, but it slipped in her weak grip. Desperate, she rolled onto it, her body weight making it click. Room lights faded. Pain in her chest exploded. Finally, she felt nothing. Chapter 2. They're short. One more. Jordan sipped from the bottle as he watched a couple stroll into the church, looking around at the gravel parking lot. Counted at least 10 other cars. Never liked to arrive early. Coming in after a crowd gathered, assured that his interest went unnoticed, especially by the one or two missionary souls who pressured new arrivals, prompting them to jump right in, start working on their program. He just wanted to slip in, get noticed by whoever might be at the top dog in the group, and then get them to sign off on his form. After taking another sip from the bottle, he slipped it under the car seat and then popped a breath mint into his mouth. He said to himself as he exited the car and rolled across the lot. Gravel crunched beneath his boots. A slight breeze carried the fragrance of magnolias. Glancing at the sky, he admired the stars' bright display out there in the country, undimmed by city lights. The large wooden church had a steeple to one side of its roof. The church appeared to be built on the side of a slight hill with a walkout basement. Upper floors were dark, while light showed from the basement windows. A wide stone staircase led to the main entrance. The stairs, white stone, glowed in the moonlight. Followed the sidewalk around to the side and guessed that the door to the basement would be there. Stepping inside, he had to squint until his eyes adjusted to the bright light in the church hall. A line of people on his left stood next to the large coffee urn. The urn provided the room with the fragrance of brewed coffee. Others carried metal folding chairs in one hand and steaming coffee cups in the other. They appeared to be forming a circle near the center of the room. Unfolding chairs clattered, people greeted each other, and some laughter filled the room. Jordan joined the line near the coffee. I'm sorry, sir. We here in Mississippi respect a man's right to bear arms, but guns are not allowed in these meetings. A voice said next to him as he waited his turn in the line. I'm afraid you have to take it back to your car if you wish to stay. The man who stood beside him was slim. In fact, he looked like he had no fat on him at all. Balding, his brown fringe on the side peppered with gray, shorter than Jordan. He didn't appear to be menacing or threatening, just pleading with Jordan as he nervously eyed the weapon clipped to his belt. Hope you cooperate with us, please? Wish I could, but I have to carry this at all times. Jordan showed the man his badge. I also won't be able to turn off my cell phone. I'm always on call. I apologize, sir. Much of the program's healing power rests on anonymity. 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 Enemies. Anyway, I hope I didn't pressure you to share something about yourself that's beyond what you want to be known yet. No problem. If any of the others ask you, feel free to tell them that I'm a deputy sheriff. Why don't you just stick with me? The man replied, his face flushed and embarrassed. That way, no one will have any concerns, okay? Jordan nodded as he stepped up to the urn. After filling a cup for himself, he mixed in 2 sugar packets. He retrieved a chair from the stacked cart. I'm George, the man offered, walking beside Jordan to the circle. With an open hand, he beckoned Jordan to a spot. Set up right here. We're about to start. Call me Bob. Jordan used his foot to open the folding chair and then moved it to the suggested spot. George took the seat next to him. This is Mary, Bob, George said, nodding to the woman on his opposite side. Mary, her shoulder-length black hair, had purple streaks. She glanced at Jordan and then nodded without smiling. He guessed her aged about 30, but her eyes seemed older. As George sat, conversation stopped. Does anyone want to say the prayer? George asked, glancing around the room. A man with shoulder-length black hair, wearing a baseball cap turned backward, raised his hand. Clad in a muscle shirt displaying a multitude of tattoos, the man glanced at Jordan. The look in the man's eye told Jordan he was made for a... Great, Hector, go ahead, George said, as his high-pitched voice now sounded enthusiastic. As if on cue, everyone but Jordan bowed their heads as the man began. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, the wisdom to know the difference. I'm Hector. I'm an alcoholic, doper, meth head. Hector continued without a pause. Been a year since I used any drug besides booze. Been a month since my last drink. George grinned. Standing, he approached Hector and handed the man what looked like a poker chip. Hector smiled as he accepted it. George returned to his chair. You and the group applauded. Hector looked smug as he studied the token in his hand. Hardest damn thing I've done in my life. Hector appeared to choke back a sob as he put it in his pocket. I'll drink to that, one man said, holding up his coffee and offering it as a... Several chuckled at the statement. Hi, my name is George. I'm an alcoholic, George said as the room quieted. It's been 14 years since my last drink. At times, each day seems the hardest thing in my life. Hector, hang in there, buddy. George then began sharing stories of his years drinking, described how alcohol had wrecked his life and the struggles he had with maintaining sobriety. When George finished, Mary began her soliloquy, and the rest of the group in turn followed suit. Finally, the man next to Jordan ended his. Jordan could feel everyone's eyes on him now. He sipped his coffee, leaned back in his chair, and then ran his hand through his close-cropped, graying black hair. What the hell? Hello, I'm Bob. Frankly, I don't know what the hell I am. And, taking a deep breath, he continued. A few years ago, I just had to put away a bunch of Satanists for killing 3 kids. The woman gasped. Continues. Had a loving wife, a daughter I adored, in every way daddy's girl. Riding high, and then everything turned to shit. Proceeded with his litany. Described each disaster as he talked, and stared straight ahead. Made eye contact with no one. Sighed, took a deep breath, finished his. So, here I am, hiding from my notoriety, on my last stop of the slide. Sheriff here owed my boss in Memphis a big fave. He took me on. 2 weeks ago, I got pulled over by the highway patrol. DUI while driving a department vehicle. Keep it off the record, I agreed to stop using departmental cars and attend 30 meetings the next 60 days. When he finished, he glanced around the room. Two watching them averted their eyes quickly as their mouths opened and the rest stared ahead in silence. One woman appeared to be drying her tears. No one made it. Hector looked up, turned to Jordan, chuckled, and shook his head. Man, what a great bunch of excuses to drink. Thanks for the affirmation, Jordan muttered under his breath. Rising, he carried his chair to the rack, tossed his cup in the trash, and left the hall. Seated in his car, he watched as the others filed from the building. A single lamp on the pole in the center of the lot allowed him to see their grave faces as they made their way to their vehicles. Some glanced sadly in his direction. None made a move towards his car to talk. One by one, the cars left the lot until his and two others remained. As Jordan reached for the bottle under his seat, George and Mary emerged from the darkened church. Both walked straight to Jordan's car. Stooping next to the car, George knocked on the window. Jordan popped the lock on the passenger door. Mary slid in beside him, and George held out his hand. I really need a drink. Jordan remained holding the bottle out. I thought. Never mind what you thought. I need a drink. George's hand remained extended in Mary. Sure? Jordan then glanced at Mary. She nodded while brushing her hair back from her face. Jordan removed the cap and handed it to him. After taking several large swallows, George belched and gave the bottle to Mary. After taking a long drink, she returned the bottle to Jordan. As Jordan took a long pull from the bottle, Mary put her hand on his. So, those three just walked away? Nodded. I thought I'd seen you somewhere before. Didn't want to say nothing. Must have been in the news. Sorry about your daughter. Shit, what a. Took the bottle again. Alright, so that was Murder Club. Like I said, it's the first story of the Jordan County series. I believe there's 7 book series right now. You're going to get to love all of them. I know Hector is my absolute favorite. Biker like me. But, so if you see it, boom, Murder Club. It's out there on Amazon. Drop Richard a hey. Tell him you saw the video and you're looking forward to his book. And Richard, like I said, man, that first chapter, give a warning to people. Anyway, looking forward to it. See you next week. I am Larry Hoy, biker writer legend, and thank you for stopping by First Chapter. Hope you had a great time. If you too can be a First Chapter book of the week, drop me a message. If you're an author and you've got a book ready to share, drop me a message. I'd love to read it. And if I haven't met your favorite author yet, introduce me. My goodness. I could also use your support. Go to Amazon and pick up the Hit World book series, especially the Sweetwater Chronicles. The newest book, Boom Boom, Demon's Kiss, is out now. Try it out there. I would love to see it. Drop your review on Amazon. Appreciate it. And I will see you all next week.